Hello, good evening. Happy Monday, y'alls. So, we are getting back into this juicy book by Ray Grasse entitled The Waking Dream Unlocking the Symbolic Language of Our Lives. And today, big tickle. Excuse me. Oh my goodness, it took over. Eee. Today, we're getting into chapter 3, A Landscape of Symbols. And let me show you this picture here, which is so cool looking. It looks like a tarot card, but I mean, like most things look like tarot cards to me, but it looks like a tarot card. But also on the tarot card itself, to me, it looks like a whole bunch of like circular plates of tarot cards and the astrological signs or constellations. And then we also have like the planets on the inside with people, or like the sigils for the planets. Okay, right. I have to, where is this so I can focus all the way in? Isn't that cool? Oh, there, yeah. And the outer circle is numbered. Dang, yeah. It sort of looks like justice, right? Okay. Back to this focus. I think, yeah, like there. That sounds good. Okay. So, chapter 3, A Landscape of Symbols. The whole outer world and its forms are a signature of the inner world. Jacob Boehme, The Signature of All Things. The signature of all things I am here to read. James Joyce, Ulysses. Haha. Sign natures. Signatures. Sign natures. In 1798, Napoleon and his army of soldiers and scholars entered Egypt, initiating the first large-scale investigation of ancient Egypt in modern times. Imagine the reaction of these early explorers setting foot for the first time among the sand-drifted ruins of this ancient civilization. Ooh. Everywhere about them, on the archaic walls and monuments looming up from the surrounding desert, are mysterious images, hieroglyphs, which hold the secrets to that distant world. Yet because they do not know how to decipher these strange symbols, that world remains unknown to them, even though its secrets at their fingertips. Not until the later discovery and decoding of the Rosetta Stone, a granite slab containing the same text in Greek, Coptic, and hieroglyphic scripts, could Western scholars get their first look into the beliefs and ideas of the ancient Egyptians encoded in these images. Ooh. Delaney, cool gamer, welcome in. Hey, Dean, oh my goodness. Right? Y'alls, I went to a biofield tuning session today. Wow. It was wonderful. It was so wonderful, and she was so magnificent. And I'm really excited for the other 2 appointments. And like, wow, right? Just the even experiencing it. The way the tones, they vibrate in you, and the way you hear them, and the way it makes your body react in different ways, and like how the reactions change with the way the tones are changing. It's wild. Mystics, welcome in. Welcome in. Oh, hey. Let's oh, I forgot I was in here earlier doing some tarot. I like to display my case. All that cool stuff in there. And we'll turn my thing over. Can we see it? Oh, you can barely see it. There we need more light like that. Oh, you can really see my armpit. Okay, let's try a little bit like that. Oh, balls. Well, whatever. We're really here for the info. Oh my gosh, and I forgot the light. I'm so sorry. Why am I apologizing? I'll be right back. I want to put that on. Okay. Now, very good. So dang. Let's do it. Let's read some more. By analogy, this is the predicament of the average man or woman today as perceived by the symbolist. We are each surrounded by a vast landscape of symbols, encoded within the events and phenomena of our daily lives. Collectively, these experiential patterns contain a wealth of information about ourselves and the world. Yet, because we have forgotten the language of these symbols, our personal hieroglyphics, this vast dimension of knowledge, remains closed to us, even though it, too, is at our fingertips. Throughout history, cultures have developed different methods of unlocking the information encoded in the living book of symbols, some of which are explored in the chapters to follow. This chapter proposes a broad framework of interpretation to provide a context in which to orient these ideas and methods. I really like this guy's writing. Genevieve, happy Moon Day. Welcome in. Very good. Yeah, actually that Bethany lady sound healer, she just messaged me. A really cool. She's so cool. Dang. Oh, right. The varieties of experiential symbolism. As an aid to a systematic study of personal symbols, we can begin by identifying several broad categories of symbolism from which to elaborate more specialized branches of study. The focus here is on 5 of these categories: environmental symbols, the body, actions, dreams, and attitudes. Environmental symbols. The first and broadest category, environmental symbols, is the primary focus of this book. Here I refer to all forms of information perceived in the immediate external world, including what is drawn from interpersonal encounters, found or presented objects, encounters with animals, environmental changes, as well as more abstract patterns like numerological relationships or name symbolism. In short, all external events. From the symbolist standpoint, these patterns can be viewed as reflections of inner states of consciousness, interpretable in the same way as nightly dreams. When viewed through the eye of analogical and metaphoric thought, ordinary situations are revealed to possess levels of significance beyond their prosaic and or everyday meaning. Subtle cross connections between different events are perceived through a recognition of similarities. For example, the bird which changed direction in mid flight during my conversation with the native healer in Arizona could be read as mirroring a similar shift of direction unfolding in my larger life at the time. When I perceived the bird's flight as a metaphor, I was able to discern a deeper connection to broader trends in my own life. The body. A second category widely recognized as a vital source of esoteric information is the body. As is 16th century Christian mystic and occultist Jacob, am I saying it wrong? Boehme? It's Boehme. Boehme. Jacob Boehme wrote, "There is nothing in man that is not marked in his exterior, so that by the exterior one may discover what is in the individual who bears the sign." I'm reading that again. There is nothing in man that is not marked in his exterior, so that by the exterior one may discover what is in the individual who bears the sign. Bam, right? So, what's the difference between sizing up and judging, though? Is it just like more from a more neutral internal world? It's more just like an observation? Because what? I mean, like, yeah, I don't know. To observe is to categorize, right? Is it? Or is it just to observe? And then we try to understand, which is like categorizing. Right? Mr. Hugh, Jackie, welcome in, everyone. Happy Monday, everyone. Yeah, 6-6. 6-6 today. So the esoteric study of the body is classically subdivided into several categories, any one of which represents a field of study into itself. These include the markings and shape of the hands, the features of the face and head, the eyes, as well as the overall shape and size of the body, to name the most prominent. On a broad level, the entire body is divisible into left and right halves, with the markings and features on each side possessing different symbolism. For example, if the hands symbolically mirror the psyche and destiny, the left hand specifically concerns all inherited traits as well as the emotional, reactive disposition of the person, whereas the right hand reveals what the person has achieved with those potentials, as well as revealing his or her more rational side. Yeah, the right side is the masculine side, and the left side is the feminine side. On the right side, like right down through here, this whole area right where my hand is, that is the ancestral river of energy that flows in our Tauruses, in our energetic fields. And over right here, this is the mother side, the feminine ancestral river. Isn't that cool? All right. I think so. Okay. Thus, according to this system, someone whose left hand has relatively weak markings, but whose right hand has strongly defined markings, has probably developed relatively meager capacities to the greatest possible advantage. I didn't understand that. Thus, according to this system, someone whose left hand has relatively weak markings, but whose right hand has strongly defined markings, has probably developed relatively meager capacities to the greatest possible advantage. Moreover, all changes anywhere on the body suggest important changes in one's personality and destiny. Code, welcome in. I miss you. We need to link up this week. If you have time, I would like to. All right. So yeah, I'm turning the page. Actions. Another category of symbolism concerns the subtler meanings associated with an individual's actions, what Bohm called customs and usages. Simply by observing a person's movements, gestures, and general behavior, sages have claimed that a great deal may be learned about his or her inner disposition. In the 3rd century Buddhist text, the oh no. Visuddhimagga, 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 an individual's spiritual growth is revealed by the way the person stands or moves. This is her footprint. I love that he just said her. I love that that's more interchangeable these years. And even in the way the person gets out of it. Oh, and even in the way the person gets out of and into bed. Awesome. Cool. That sounds great. I have some things going on Thursday, but I have some time in between. That'll be great. Yeah, the getting into bed. I have like a captain's bed. It's really tall. And now that my back's better, it's really fun to run and jump into it, to be honest. It's so fun. I don't know. I don't think my cat likes it, but whatever. All right. In recent decades, this ancient belief has been echoed in the complex theories about body language developed by psychologists. Yet for esotericists, human movements yield not only psychological but metaphysical information as well. To the ancient Pythagoreans, for instance, a person's behavior upon awakening on the first day of the year revealed important omens about the rest of the year for that individual. We all are familiar with superstitions and folk beliefs of this sort, ranging from notions about walking under ladders to spilling salt and breaking mirrors. Indeed, to the esotericist, all behavior, from the patterns of one's speech and handwriting to the way one moves one's body on a particular day, potentially encodes larger bodies of symbolic meaning. Dreams. As with the events of waking experience, the images of our dreams offer an important glimpse into the workings of the deep psyche written in the language of symbolism and analogy. According to some traditions, however, dreams issue from a subtler level of consciousness than the phenomena of everyday life. Excuse me. And for that reason, offer a decidedly more fluid look into the changing psychological condition of the soul than do waking events. Yet dream symbolism should not be thought of as more accurate than waking symbolism. Rather, each type provides a glimpse into a different part of human nature. According to esoteric Hindu teachings, dream symbolism offers insight into the emotional dimensions of our being, while the symbolism of waking events reflects the underlying aspects of our rational or analytic nature. Dude, I was woken up this morning by a phone call from my sister, and I just was really pissed. I was so pissed. I was dreaming. I don't know what the dream was because I was just like trying to read my phone, and I had just changed my sister's picture, and so I was like, who's calling me? And I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be about work. And then it was like my mom needed a ride, and I was still all, I was just, well, okay. I never led on to being pissed to her or anything like that. That was all inside happening. But then I was calming myself down, and then I was like, oh my God, I forgot to do my first morning mantra. Dude, I can't even remember what it is now. And I was having all these internal thoughts. And then spending time with my mom was amazing, even though I was super tired. I stayed up way too late. And I've been missing her so much. And we got to spend a couple of hours just hanging out, her and I, which was amazing. It was great. So, right. I hate getting woken up in the morning by a phone call, but look what happened, right? I ended up spending time with my mom, and it was great. And then I got some sound healing. Dang, I have so much energy. I don't know. Maybe it's not a good idea to narrate today. It feels like I want to talk more. Attitudes. Even more intangible than dreams, our shifting moods and attitudes contain a rich wealth of meaning. Because of their proximity to everyday consciousness, we often find in our emotional patterns types of information difficult to discern through other sources. By way of illustration, we might outwardly experience what is commonly considered a tragedy, say the loss of a house, all the while remaining in a state of great joy or tranquility. While the outer events may hold an important message about an inner psychic or karmic pattern unfolding at that time, the state of mind brought to bear on the event symbolizes our inner level of development. In this case, emotional maturity and harmony. Similarly, an individual may externally possess great wealth while internally experiencing profound guilt regarding money. Without negating the symbolic importance of the outer condition, the inner attitude qualifies the external symbol in a significant way. In this case, guilt implies a constriction regarding the symbol of wealth on a more profound level of personality than suggested by the physical condition of having a great deal of money. Last year I witnessed this kitten being run over, and in the middle of this really busy street. It was 4-lane traffic. And the first time it got hit, it then doubled back and got hit more, and it just wasn't dying. It was limping itself off. And then it really affected me. I just kept thinking, why did I have to see that? Like, why did I have to see that? What does it mean? Does it mean that I just keep throwing myself in the middle of like oncoming traffic for more heartache and more slaughter? That was my I think that's what I ended up on. I think that's where I ended because I thought so long, because it really like seeing it all happen jacked me. It was terrible. I actually had to pull over because I was like having a crying fit watching it all. I had to, I couldn't drive. So yeah, when when he was talking about all the things that happen in our lives, like weird events that we witness and all that stuff, like all these meanings behind it, and then trying to assign it and like categorize it. Yeah, that was traumatic. Many methods can be employed to explore one's attitude and moods. Among them, word association exercises in which one allows thoughts to arise in response to proposed words or phrases. Rorschach tests in which an abstract image serves as a point of departure for spontaneous and highly symbolic reflections from the unconscious mind. Personal mythology, or the study and exploration of mythic themes or archetypes underlying one's drives and feelings, and psychological questionnaires, with questions like, if your house were to catch fire, what object or possession would you save? What are your greatest fears or desires? What is your most vivid recollection from childhood? Dude. Yeah, slow down, pay attention to your surroundings. That's a good advice. Hey, and that's what happened, even if that wasn't what I wanted. you know? Today at that sound healing, I remembered things that I hadn't thought of in over 20 years, and like nuts things. Like, it's cool and weird. It's weird. From an esoteric standpoint, attitudes toward any one symbol can provide enormous insight into a person's relationship with entire classes of symbols and internal energies. Using astrological terminology, for example, a person's attitude towards authority figures reveals his or her deeper relationship with the entire network of energies relating to Saturn, the planet which most directly rules authority symbols, which rules my rising sign. And like, yeah, I've always been super about authority. In addition, attitudes toward religious figures reflect a person's relationship with Jupiter, the planet ruling such figures, and a person's attitude toward the mother can yield subtle insights into his or her relationship with the inner moon. Through such a process of investigation, one can begin to grasp the essential core patterns or archetypal roots underlying a diverse array of thoughts and moods. The three rings, classification by time. So, let me show you guys this little chart here, which looks like an olive or a breast. You choose. Oh, shit. Making myself laugh. Okay. Ring 1, short-term patterns. Ring 2, long-term patterns. And ring 3, lifelong or destiny patterns. Okay. Genevieve. Good. Right. That's pretty good. Yeah. Okay. On to these 5 basic areas of experience. It is possible to superimpose another framework of classification based not on types of symbolism, but on increments of time or duration. Ooh, dude, that's just like the biofield. Okay, for example, some esoteric systems, such as astrology, divide individual experience into short-term events, longer-term trends, and lifelong patterns or themes. In astrology, these are termed transits, progressions, and the natal horoscope. While immediately intertwined, each level reveals a different type of information. To illustrate this concept, the globe pictured here represents the experience of an entire life. Oh, it's a globe. The first ring, covering the smallest area on the globe, relates to life events of the shortest and most transitory nature. The slightly larger ring relates to more long-lasting conditions and events. The third ring, associated with the surface of the entire globe, relates symbolically to the destiny patterns of an entire life. Each kind of symbolism explored earlier may be looked at from any one of these three levels of duration. For example, in discussing the symbolism of the body, we can speak of short-term transitory changes taking place with a person's health or physique, such as common illnesses, cuts or bruises of any kind, and similar occurrences. We can also speak of long-term conditions associated with the body, such as chronic illness or trends in one's style of dress. Finally, we might reflect upon lifelong physiological features as symbolically expressed in a person's general body shape, size, or features. In the category of actions, we may describe short-range symbols, such as individual gestures or situation-specific body language, those of a longer range significance, such as jobs, hobbies, or habitual activities of a personal or professional nature, or lifelong actions, such as basic patterns of walking, self-expression, or career activities. In these categories, each of the three levels of duration reveal different meanings. Consider, for example, how this scheme applies to the category of environmental symbols. So cool, right? Everyone's so unique. It's so cool. I love olives too. I love them on all my fingers. Ring 1, transitory symbolic events. At any given moment, people are engulfed by a constantly changing ocean of information from the environment, ranging from background noises of traffic and overheard conversations to changing images, odors, and sensations. But if everything is in some sense meaningful, there must be some practical way of sifting out what is truly important, of distinguishing signal from noise. Toward this end, consider the following broad guidelines. Traditionally, the single most dramatic indicator of importance in any event is unusualness. To what degree is an event out of the ordinary? Wow. That's a good way to say that. What tends to happen on a consistent or repetitive basis may not suggest anything of significance to the mystic or symbolist. Yet the event or situation that is unusual implies a rupture or break with the established order, and therefore holds broader implications of meaning. Right? Sam and Dean, it's always their first question, you know? Do you notice anything unusual? If you think of anything, you know? Suppose, for example, that you had the newspaper delivered to your front door every day. In this context, the appearance of a newspaper on the porch would not hold any deep importance as a symbol. But suppose you never had a newspaper delivered to your front door, when suddenly one morning, there it is, today's edition on the doorstep. This simple event, while hardly earth-shaking, out of sheer unusualness, takes on potential significance as a symbol of larger developments in your outer or inner life. As to the specific meaning of the symbol, you might look at what headline appears on its front page and consider how it literally or metaphorically connects with what is happening in your life. In your life. Does it read, oppression leaders meet, or strike reaches deadlock, or flood ravages city? In a more fundamental way, newspapers are symbols of communication and mental concerns. Compare, for instance, the very different meaning implied by an accidental delivery of flowers or a pizza. At this level, the appearance of a newspaper may suggest a larger trend taking place in your life toward greater communication or social interaction. Needless to say, an event of this sort would rank fairly low on virtually anyone's scale of unusualness. As a general rule, one might conclude the more unusual an event is, the more importance it takes on as a symbol of change or transformation in one's life. Amen. For instance, suppose a fire breaks out in your basement, causing extensive damage. As in the interpretation of a dream, you might ask how this event reflects some inner fire or outbreak of energy in your life, possibly at the level of the emotional subconscious, since basements commonly symbolize that which is down below in our psyche or in the psyche. Or imagine you wake up to find a bat flying through the darkness of your bedroom. As happened to a friend of mine, not surprisingly, this event occurred during a period of great emotional turmoil in my friend's life. Dude, right? I was having bat messengers for a while there. Thank God none of them came into my apartment. But I had a dragonfly try to get into my apartment this week, and man, that's really good omen. Oh, that's so cool. In this vein, we might also include what became, for Carl Jung, the primary focus of his work with synchronicity: extraordinary coincidences between events that display a striking quality of meaningfulness. Coincidences fall into several different categories. Early in this century, Austrian biologist Paul Kramer focused his attention on coincidences of a more sequential kind in his aptly named theory of seriality. Examples of sequential coincidences include an individual encountering the same number several times in a row during a short period, or being locked out of buildings in separate incidents during the course of a single day. Carl Jung, by contrast, focused his attention largely on coincidences of a more simultaneous or synchronous sort, as in the case of someone stumbling across a photo of a friend from grade school who happens to call precisely at that moment, or an appropriate book that falls off the shelf just as one needs the answer to a problem. Yeah. In a great sense, coincidences may be thought to represent a kind of heightened punctuation relative to a lesson or message one is dealing with at that time. What a cool sentence, right? For actor Frank Morgan, finding the name of author L. Frank Baum sewn into the coat during the filming of The Wizard of Oz no doubt seemed a confirmation from the universe of the rightness of his involvement in the movie. In many cases, however, the key to interpreting a coincidence lies in taking a more metaphorical approach and connecting the unusual occurrence with what is happening in your personal life. Take the case of the recurring locked doors. In what way are you feeling blocked in your efforts to make changes or transitions? Or in the case of the childhood classmate calling just as you stumble across his or her photo, what does this person represent or embody for you? Yeah. Think particularly of his or her traits or your childhood connection to this person, or with the book that fell off the shelf. Is the topic the plight of captive animals, or is it the life story of an eccentric and socially distant artist from the 19th century? We must remember that such instances, from the mildly unusual occurrence to the most extraordinary, are neither positive nor negative in nature, but simply neutral vehicles through which different types of meaning can arise. Right? Neutral. Ring 2, longer-term symbolic events. Ooh, sticking my nose. At this point, we must pull back to include larger trends or phases which unfold over longer periods of time. I just said transported me to a thought. Like the stage sets in a given act which frame the scenes of a play, these broader trends may be less obvious and constitute the invisible environment of daily life. Nonetheless, they represent important keys to understanding the larger context against which the more transitory events of life draw significance. For instance, aside from whatever unusual or extraordinary events may occur in one's home environment over the course of a day or week where one is living, Next to a church, an ocean, or a toxic dump, for instance, may be a significant form of broader perspective. Likewise, one's job might seem relatively uneventful during a given period, yet in a larger context, the nature of the job could itself be an important symbol in one's life. For example, I knew a woman who found temporary work at a county flood control department exactly at the time she was trying to stem the tide of turbulent emotions following a bitter divorce. In addition to one's job or home environment, clues may also be found in such areas as health, relationships, family, and neighbors. One useful way of clarifying these broader patterns is by keeping a diary with a focus on larger trends rather than individual days. In other words, every month or two, put aside some time to reflect on what larger developments have been taking shape in your life, with an eye to any longer range inner trends connected with the period in question. Broader patterns of this sort can be easily overlooked in the narrower focus of a daily diary. While the most second ring patterns express themselves in terms of long range developments, in some cases, however, even shorter, more transitory events may be important enough to jump rings into this second and broader category by merit of their long range effects or implications. This can include major accidents, unexpected changes, or events of extreme unusualness, or what some call high strangeness. A classical example of this is an individual getting struck by lightning, a fleeting event to be sure, yet with far broader implications. In traditional societies, individuals who survived direct lightning strikes were seen as signaled out or chosen by the gods or fate for some unusual destiny. Even more unusual would be experiences of a paranormal nature, such as the sighting of ghosts, strange animals, or unidentified lights in the sky. This second category of symbolic patterning also includes all of life's archetypal or threshold events, such as deaths or divorces, marriages, graduations, domestic moves, the birth of children, leaving home, job changes, or even falling in love. Such developments are significant in at least two respects. First, as symbols in themselves, which express in microcosm larger changes unfolding in the life of the psyche. Hence, the loss of a cherished friend could reflect a deeper transformation being experienced, or the act of getting married might correspond to some union taking place in other areas of one's life. Secondly, these archetypal events are significant as hubs through or around which other important symbols and synchronicities may constellate. As numerous writers on synchronicity have noted, such points of change in our lives are often accompanied by powerful symbols or synchronicities in our environment. In turn, these events frequently reveal important clues concerning the broader transition being experienced. As an example, a woman approached me after a lecture one evening and told me her father had died on her wedding day. She wondered whether this might hold symbolic or synchronistic meaning. Rather than view the event in terms of positive or negative implications, I told her the sheer momentousness of such a such a symbol in conjunction with her wedding day underscored the magnitude of the step she had taken by entering married life, leaving her youthful identity behind her. Needless to say, in no way should the marriage be viewed as having caused the father's death, but simply as being conjoined with it. Of all the archetypal events or turning points in our lives, perhaps none is as significant as our own near brushes with death. After all, what could be more unusual or out of the ordinary than stepping to the brink of mortality? Having had a few such experiences, I have been struck by the way they seem to occur at times of great psychological transition or intensity, with the circumstances of the near fatal encounter encoding the larger issues being confronted. Hence, my near drowning in a hidden whirlpool on a river many years ago mirrored a period of considerable emotional turmoil precipitated by a family crisis. A near collision in which a car from an opposite lane suddenly hurtled toward my own exactly coincided with a heated confrontation taking place with a coworker that same week. Ironically, the home state of the outer driver was the same as that of the individual causing me difficulties in the personal sphere. On a subtler level, such close calls with death can also signal profound changes in an individual's destiny or karmic program, with the events serving to redirect a person into a different life direction. Wow. I was in that crazy car accident just this last year, just like in October, with Will. Though it is associated most exclusively with shorter term events, Jung's notion of meaningful coincidence may be applied to this second level of magnitude, in the form of recurring events or situations unfolding over many months or years. Consider the case of an aspiring actress who, over the course of a month, was offered virtually identical roles in totally unrelated plays or television shows. The roles were different from anything she had done before. In a recent book, a writer described the unsettling experience of seeing fire imagery repeatedly crop up in her life over a 6-month period. The plane she was on caught fire. The hotel she walked into one day burst into flames, or she had close calls with bomb scares on a London street. Or consider the businessman who, over the course of several years, found himself repeatedly running up against the same obscure problem at work. Here as well, the challenge lies in being able to grasp the symbolic or metaphoric dimensions of such events rather than their purely literal interpretation. For example, was the recurring role offered the actions that of a high powered businesswoman? If so, perhaps there was something she could learn from this character about becoming more practical and assertive in her life. If the characters emphasize the more negative side of this career orientation, maybe the actress needs to be less ambitious or driven in her attitudes. Likewise, did the problem repeatedly confronting the businessman concern blockages in the plumbing of his various office buildings? Possibly in his own life. At that time, there were issues of unresolved emotionality or clogged plumbing needing to be looked at. In other words, upon further reflection, such situations can shed much insight into the broader lessons being confronted in one's life. Dang. Yeah. You know what's so crazy is my mom brought that accident up today. Because I told her that like right before I got into that accident, I was bawling my eyes out over Jay and my mom. And then all of a sudden shit got really weird in my car. And then all of a sudden we were totaling my car and miraculously living. It's just crazy how all the events like lay up like that. Like, I just don't know. It's just crazy, dude. I don't know. Well, yeah, I told my mom that, but it really affected her that she was just like, she was saying how she didn't realize how much the things that she says sometimes affect us and us girls. And yeah, I don't want to make her feel bad though, even though that did happen. Like that wasn't why I told her. Oh no, I know. Yeah, I told her. Yeah, I remember. So the third ring. Dude, this hair just is determined to tickle my nose the whole time I'm reading Judas. Ah! The third ring. Life destiny patterns. This level of personal experience involves neither short nor long-term symbolic patterns, but rather the border design or theme of an entire life. In a famous passage from this essay, Transcendent Speculation upon an Apparent Intention in the Fate of the Individual, 1850, the philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer muses how the unfoldment of seemingly unintended events and accidents in one's life give the appearance of a carefully constructed novel, as if all that ever happened, whether intended or not, represented integral elements of a larger unfolding destiny. Indeed, just as a book may fall under a particular category, fiction, nonfiction, romance, mystery, adventure, so we often note a similar unifying pattern to our own lives, which serves as the guiding principle in forming individual events or trends. Unlock this pattern, and we unlock the guiding symbols of an entire life. Dang, dude. Eternity ring. Ring. The ring. Yeah. Man, I'm glad I wore a tank top. I'm starting to sweat. It's hot. Okay. This theme, or what might be called a meta pattern, can be discerned in several different ways. For example, we find it within long-term conditions or patterns that extend for the duration of an entire life, as in the symbolism of a lifelong profession, hobby, struggle, or behavioral pattern. The person whose entire life is associated with books, from a childhood in the family bookstore to an adult occupation as a writer, is dominated by the archetype of Mercury, in Greek, Hermes, the god of intellectual and communicative interests. I was reading about Hermes and Mercury a lot because we just went direct. I'm so glad. I'm so happy about that. And I mean, it wasn't a bad retrograde or anything. I'm just like, I feel a lot better now that it is direct. Someone whose life is continually preoccupied with battling social injustice, on the other hand, may be seen as being governed by the archetypal pattern of justice, law, or what might be called crusading for the underdog. Another source of insight into one's life destiny pattern is the human body. In addition to those more transitory marks or health conditions relating to the first two levels of symbolism we have been looking at, one's essential body shape and facial features can hold profound clues to one's overall state of consciousness and karmic inheritance for this lifetime. What does my face say? Occultists and astrologers have long theorized about the ways body or facial types relate to various planetary or archetypal qualities governing different individuals. They classify certain bodies as Saturnine, long and thin. Saturnine? I don't know. Martian, athletic, fierce-looking, or commanding. Mercurial, short and wiry. Venusian, sensual, and so forth. In turn, each individual part of the body can be seen as encoding some facet of one's inner or outer life, with particular attention paid to any unusual or prominent features, such as birthmarks, deformities, scars, or areas of abnormal strengths or handicaps. Again, none of these signs are either positive or negative, but are to be viewed simply in terms of their symbolic implications. Such features assume either constructive or destructive expressions, depending on the will of the individual. Still, another approach to this question, dealt with in greater depth in the next chapter, involves the careful examination of the very first moments of life. It is ironic that one of the briefest periods of an entire life should also reflect the longest term dimension of meaning for that life. Yet for many cultures, the symbol and circumstances surrounding birth are seen as being a microcosm or blueprint of the greater themes and condition of an entire life, a lifetime. Perhaps the most obvious example of this practice is the Astrological Horoscope, which symbolically encodes the grand overarching patterns, overarching, I don't know, patterns of an individual's life. Yet, as shown in Chapter 4, horoscopes are by no means the only example of this practice employed by traditional cultures. We saw earlier how certain short-term events can overlap into second-ring magnitude patterns. It is even possible for some singular events to or accomplishments to assume so much importance they jump across both first and second ring categories to become third ring or lifelong symbols. For Sir Edmund Hillary, climbing Mount Everest became a key symbol reflecting the destiny pattern or karma of his entire life. For Richard Nixon, the Watergate scandal was an important key to the meaning of his lifelong destiny, both in regard to the elements of criminality and deception. Both in regards to the elements of criminality and deception, this event signified, as well as the symbolic imagery of the name itself, a gate holding back water. One could argue was an appropriate psychological description of Nixon himself. In terms of your own personal experience, look back to those key situations that embody either the highest pinnacles or lowest depths of your life, and by reflecting on those, come to better understanding the further extremes of your own karmic spectrum of destiny. Singe Man, welcome in, man. Awesome. Saturnine. Thank you. I needed that. And 9. We saw earlier how the idea of coincidence may be understood not only in terms of transitory short-term events, but in connection with longer periods of time. Extending this area one step further, we might also note the presence of coincidence which transpire over many decades and which therefore hold significance in relation to an entire lifetime. Ooh, 1 second. Whew! All right. That took me over so fast. Therefore hold okay, wait, so extending this. Okay, yeah. For example, we may notice uncannily similar situations recurring in connection with domestic environments, such as successive neighbors all sharing the same obscure hobby, or consistently purchasing houses with faulty foundations. I am reminded of a woman I met who had been struck by lightning not once but 3 times over the course of her life. Once she was hit directly in an open air strike. Judas. The second time, indirectly by lightning traveling through a phone line. And on the third occasion, she was struck through a fireplace. Wow! That's wild. To the astrologically minded, such clusters of symbols in a life are readily comprehensible through an analysis of the archetypal patterns indicated in the individual's horoscope. In this woman's case, her horoscope revealed an intense configuration centering around the planet Uranus, the planet most often associated with lightning, which was positioned at the top of her chart. In astrological terms, this would indicate a person who might experience lightning-like shifts of fortune in career or reputation, as well as a powerful need for freedom and independence in life generally. Her unusual relationship with lightning symbolized a broader destiny and personality that permeated many other areas in her life. Damn, that is wild. Approaching this idea from a slightly different angle, it is possible that each area of one's life conceals long-term recurring patterns of one type or another, whether in the area of relationships, work, money, body and health, schooling, or friendships, to name a few. For example, all of the long-distance journeys one has ever taken may have been characterized by unexpected meetings with religious figures who subsequently had an important impact on one's life. In astrology, such conditions would be seen as relating to the karmic energies of the 9th house, that sector of the horoscope relating to philosophy and one's higher mind. Indeed, More of the various areas of one's life truly exist in isolation, but entwine to compromise a greater whole, much in the same way the various instruments of an orchestral piece come together to form a great symphony. For this reason, it is more accurate to speak of an individual's destiny pattern less as a singular, uniform entity than as a complex chorus of elements or themes. For the average person, this basic symbolic template runs through the various stages of an entire life, periodically shifting in the subcategory or octave of symbolism expressed, or even in the changing combination of areas and sub-elements. Let's try again. Or even in the changing combination of areas and sub-elements emphasized, yet remaining essentially similar throughout. The consistency of symbolism is visible in the way archetypal situations or interests experienced in childhood will tend to recur in seemingly very different ways and levels throughout an entire life. During his childhood, for instance, Bulgarian-born spiritual teacher Oram Mikhail Ivanov, 1900 to 1986, exhibited an inordinate fascination with the phenomena of fire and water, along with a passion for climbing trees. As his biographer George Furgenstein suggests, these interests foreshadow his later concern with the cosmic principles of masculine and feminine, universally symbolized by the elements of fire and water, as well as his adult interest in attaining a transcendent perspective on life, a process symbolized in many traditional sources by climbing a great tree. To summarize, we have seen how the problem of meaning in our lives can be approached from several different perspectives simultaneously. In this chapter, we have explored two complementary systems which help map the primary categories. Pam, you've changed me forever. Code. Map, Pam, where are you? So fast for me to just lose the spot. To summarize, we have seen how the problem of meaning in our lives can be approached from several different perspectives simultaneously. In this chapter, we've explored two complementary systems which help map the primary categories of symbolism in our life, as well as the context of time. A simple analogy would be the way a novel can be studied on several different levels at once, most minutely in terms of its individual sentences or grammar, more broadly in terms of its chapters or narrative scenes, or in the broadest possible sense, in terms of its greater overall theme or message. At each of these magnitudes of focus, a different type of information concerning the book and its ideas presents itself. So it is with our own life. Depending on which level of focus one chooses to emphasize, entirely different symbolic patterns can be studied or emphasized. Using this threefold structure, there is virtually no detail or aspect of a person's life, be it fleeting or long-lasting, that does not have its place within the overall framework of symbolism in the person's experience. Meaning is not limited to the rare and extraordinary event, but permeates the landscape of our lives in a rich variety of ways. In the chapters that follow, we look at other ways of approaching and classifying the patterns of our world, beginning with a look at the most popular and intensely scrutinized of all traditional symbolic events, the omen. Ooh. Wow, we're just about at 1 hour solid, dude. It was 5909 just then. So I'm going to call it here. And I don't know, I'm likely to go live again tonight just because I want to. But if I don't go live tonight, I'll be live tomorrow for sure. So I just I wish you all wonderful days whenever you find this. And I love you all in the chat. I love you all not in the chat. I love. Thank you so much. So until next time, we'll do it again. We'll learn some more. We'll have some fun. We'll share some energy. I love yous. Thank you so much. Mwah. See you so soon.